Hello and welcome back to another video. This video is a quick review about food chain and food web, perfect for IGCSE Biology or O-level biology and so on. And then after that we even solve some past paper questions from IGCSE Biology. If this video does help you, please go give it a like and comment which video should I make next. Let's start by discussing a food chain. A food chain represents the transfer of energy from one organism to another by the process of ingestion or eating. Let's understand this by looking at this example. This is a food chain with four trophic levels. What is a trophic level? Each organism in this food chain is a trophic level. As you move further away in the food chain, the trophic level is increasing. But before we start discussing the food chain, we need to discuss the importance of the sun. Remember, the source of all the energy in any kind of food chain is the light energy from the sun. Why? Because sun provides a light energy for all the plants to do photosynthesis and create their own food. That's how plants get energy. Right? Food chain should start with the producer. A producer is basically a plant. It makes its own food using the energy from the sunlight by the process of photosynthesis. They carry out photosynthesis to make glucose, and glucose provides energy to the plants. Now, the second organism is the primary consumer. These are primary consumers are the first organisms that eat the producer. Okay, so how are we going to draw the arrow between them? The arrow is like this. Why? Because this represents the transfer of energy from the producer to the primary consumer. Remember, a primary consumer is always a herbivore. A herbivore only eats plants, so a primary consumer always eats a producer. Okay, and then you have a secondary consumer. Secondary consumer just eat the primary consumer, so you can draw an arrow like this. And then what's a tertiary consumer? Basically these are predators that feed on secondary consumers. Okay, so these are carnivores, and in this case this is also a carnivore. So now you also have something called as decomposers. Decomposers, for example, bacteria and fungi. Sometimes it could even be animals, such as these are known as scavengers. Scavengers are animals that feed on other dead animals. For example, you have crows, you have vultures. Also, bacteria and fungi are example of decomposers. Okay, moving on, now we also have something called an omnivore. Omnivore is something that eats both plants and animals. The most common example is a human being. Now we'll talk about something called as food web. A food web basically has multiple food chains inside it, right? A food web is a network of food chains that are interconnected to each other, okay? So for example, you can see this is a food chain. The grass is eaten by a cow, which is eaten by a human, and then that is eaten by a lion. You have another food chain. Grass is eaten by chicken, which is eaten by eagle and lion. And then you have grass eaten by deer and lion. But then you can also see grass is eaten by deer, which is eaten by an eagle and lion, right? So there are multiple food chains inside it. So the interdependence of these food chains or these organisms can be shown when there is a change in population of one or multiple organisms. Okay, so you might wonder, why would the population increase or decrease? Okay, there are multiple reasons for that. So we can say because of human impact. For example, over harvesting of food. Let's say in certain area there's a lot of there's a plant that's really useful to us. Maybe it's some crop, some rice plant or anything like that. Human beings over harvested and use a lot of it. That is going to reduce the population of that food, and that is going to, for example, if it was grass and human beings just cut off all the grass in certain area, all of these above organisms are going to be affected, right? It can also be by the introduction of foreign species. For example, if you introduce another organism that feeds on deer as well as the eagle, both of them are going to be feeding on deer, so the population of deer is likely to decrease, right? Don't say that they will finish completely, just say whether it will increase or decrease. Okay, and then also spread of a disease. If a contagious disease or some disease spreads, for example, if a virus spreads in the population of chicken, many of the chicken would die out, and that is going to reduce the population of chicken. So let's see what will happen if one organism is completely removed from this food web. Let's see what would happen. So that means, according to this food web, the human beings are only relying on cows because there is no chicken. So that is going to reduce the population of cow. Also, the eagle is only depending on deer, that is also going to reduce the reduce the population of deers. So both of them are going to be reduced. What about the population of human beings or deers in this case? That is going to reduce slightly, because yes, they depended on chicken, and one of their resources one of their sources removed. They still have other source, which is grass and cow. Okay, now what about the population of grass? So the grass has one less consumer. The chicken is gone, so the grass would increase. Okay, now that we have understood what's the food chain and food web, let's solve some past paper questions. So this question says that a student recorded the information about an aquatic habitat. Figure 4.1 shows the student's notes. You're supposed to construct a food web to show the feeding relationships described in figure 4.1. Do not draw the organisms, so you're just supposed to write the names of them. Let's understand what's going on. So aquatic plants provide food for freshwater shrimps and midges. Remember, all food web and food chains start by the producer. So in our case, they told us it's a plant. Let's write aquatic plants at the base. You don't have to draw them, just write the name. Aquatic plants. And then they said they provide food for both freshwater shrimps and midges. So let's write them down. We have freshwater shrimps. Now remember how you have to draw the arrow. You have to draw the arrow as a transfer of energy. So plants provide energy to the midges as well as the freshwater shrimps. So this is how your arrow should be. And then they're saying mayflies also feed on aquatic plants. So you have another organism, mayflies. These are also feeding on aquatic plants. And then the mayflies provide food for salmon. Okay, so now you have salmon, which is feeding on mayflies. This is the secondary consumer. Mayflies are eaten by salmon. And then stoneflies feed on midges. Let's write this first. Stoneflies feed on midges. So you have midges which are eaten by stoneflies. Make an arrow like this. And then it says these are eaten by salmon. So I'll actually move the salmon higher up, make it more clear for us. Okay, so they're saying stoneflies are eaten by salmon, so we'll make an arrow like this. And then it says salmon also eat freshwater shrimps. So from freshwater shrimps, you will draw an arrow like this. It would be better to keep your salmon in the center, on the top. And then we can change these arrows slightly. It's not wrong, it's fine. Even if you don't have straight lines, you have slightly like curved lines, it's fine in the exam. Okay, focus on getting it right. Okay, salmons also eat freshwater shrimps. And then finally, herons feed on salmon. So herons is on the top, and they eat salmon. So this is your food web. Okay, in the next question it says to complete figure 4.1 using the information in the above figure. From this figure, use the information and then identify the names of the missing trophic levels and one organism at each different trophic level. So here you have the names of trophic level and you have the organisms which are mentioned in the above figure. Let's write this first. So you have a producer, primary consumer, secondary consumer, and then you have a tertiary consumer, and then you have a quaternary consumer. Make sure that you get the spelling right. It's Quater, not quarter. And then write consumer, write the whole thing, okay? And then let's try to identify the organisms. So what is the primary consumer? A primary consumer feeds on the producer. So all of these can be considered as primary consumer. So I'll just write midges. And then what the secondary consumer feeds on the primary consumer, which is going to be stoneflies. And then let's look at tertiary consumer. This is going to be salmon, because salmon feeds on stoneflies. And then finally you have quaternary consumer, which is at the top, and that is heron. Okay, so next question, you have another food web which is given here. State the number of trophic levels in the food web, the maximum number. If you see here, you only have 1, 2, and 3. That is okay, you have 3. Let's see if there is any other food chain that has more than 3. This is 1, 2, 3 as well. And then finally we also have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we get 4 from this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, that's also 4. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's a 4. You can say this food web has four trophic levels. And then state the name of one organism that feeds at both third and fourth trophic levels from the figure. So this is first trophic level, this is second, and this is third. And then from the second one, this is first, grass is first, grasshopper is second, snake is third, and hawk is fourth. You can see it's hawk. It serves as both third and fourth trophic levels. I'll write hawks here. And then state the name of the type of the energy that is transferred between trophic levels. It's always the chemical energy that's transferred. Food provides the chemical energy. Now it says that the total biomass of snakes is much less than the total biomass of mice in the food web as shown in the figure. So you have snakes and you have grass. The total biomass of snakes is much less than the mass of grass. Okay, in this video we did not explain or talk about biomass, but let's try to attempt this question anyways. Use the term energy in your answer. Because this is because snakes are higher up in the food chain compared to grass, and with every consecutive increase in trophic level, energy is lost, and then there's not enough energy higher up. At higher trophic levels. And that's all about food chain and food web.